Okay, hello. I'm coming back in. It's been a little while since I've done one of these little vlogs, but I kind of wanted to jump up to date. We're getting a little bit late in the day today, but I've been doing quite a bit of work over the last few days as we're kind of on a reading week. It's given me the opportunity to start consolidating a lot of what I'm doing, gain some real direction, and actually start formulating exactly how I'm going to explore the possibilities for my final year project, the live streaming of immersive audio for virtual reality, and crucially gaining a higher spatial resolution of what is currently available on the market. So I'm going to just start jumping straight back into it, and I'm going to pull up my my actual document so I can just talk you through what I've found. So I've finished writing my overview, which basically helps me formulate the question that I'll be interrogating for the project, and that has given me insight into how I'll move forward, and from there exactly what I'm going to explore. So let's pull up the document here. Ta-da. So the overview for my dissertation basically starts by kind of looking at exactly what virtual reality is, which is what we're doing here. So the history of virtual reality, which actually when you look into it's quite interesting, and it's a format that we've kind of been using since the 60s. With you see this terrifying thing on the screen here, the Sword of Damocles, which was a really early incarnation. It was the first time computers were used to augment a reality into some glasses, but it involved this rather terrifying computer attached to this guy's head. And then we work all the way through to like in the 90s when Nintendo and Sega started playing with it for computer games, and then through to when Palmer Luckey, who's the guy that founded Oculus, kind of started the new boom for virtual reality, and has led us to this kind of juncture that we're at today, where we're looking to go from kind of a niche thing into a mainstream market, which ultimately proves a demand for this higher immersion that I'm trying to achieve. Now we can see, so there's a company in America called Gartner, and they have this hype cycle which they release, and every year they kind of put on the emerging technologies that are coming through, and where exactly they're sitting. Now for a while virtual reality has been lingering here in this trough of disillusionment, as they like to put it, and more recently it's starting to come out, and up here where the plateau of productivity, this signifies that a technology has actually kind of reached the mainstream. Now virtual reality is here as of July 2018, and actually has kind of disappeared off this curve as of a couple of months ago, which is this year's curve, and that kind of signifies that it's there. In fact, it's no longer an emerging technology; it's an established technology, which is interesting in itself. From there, I'm moving on to looking at broadly. There's a lovely motorbike going past there. Broadly looking at a few of the different types of audio that we see in virtual reality, and then from there I move more importantly onto exactly what industry think the consumer need is, and kind of trying to clarify that. So I kind of touched on this briefly before. So in terms of what we're expecting, in terms of what kind of audio format we're going to be using, the issues, and most importantly here is we see that the lack of immersive audio rendering is a big problem, and almost more important still is, and I'll kind of touch on this in a bit if I have the time, but in a lot of these audio questions, the answer comes back, I don't know. Now I think that's kind of important, and I started to formulate some ideas around that. Most importantly for my project is that adaptive streaming is seen to be quite clearly the most important delivery means, which justifies ideally what I'm going to be doing. So it's clear, and then we can see by looking at some statistics from Qualcomm and Statistica that that the market's there is getting bigger. We're expecting it to be 65 billion by 2021. Currently, we're looking at around 27. Now, the figure of 65 billion is just for VR. That's by 2021. And the figure of 27 is for combined VR and AR. That's current. So that's quite a leap in 2 years. And industry analysis is putting that down to the rollout of 5G mobile technology. Now, the company that are kind of the partnership, should I say, that developed this third generation partnership project have included in the specifications for 5G something called Stream VR, which specifies the ways in which we'll be streaming virtual reality over 5G. So it's obviously an integral part in what industry think we will be moving forward with. Now, I then just go on to define some very standard things about exactly what streaming is. And that's quite important, so the reader understands exactly what we're trying to achieve. Now, from here, excuse me, I started looking a little bit more at virtual reality, and this is why for the most of this week I've spent with a few different virtual reality headsets jammed on my face and been looking at some different content. Now, what I found really curious about this exercise was that even in the applications where immersive audio, whether it be first or second order, ambisonics first is more common, even the applications that enable this, the content creators aren't using this. Now, aren't using it as much as potentially they should be, and thus not creating compelling immersive environments. Now, I see that as a really big problem, in as much as I don't think that the workflows that are currently available are easy enough there, and it highlights more a need for industry standardization and for educational resources to be available to the people that are creating content. Not everyone creating content for VR is a professional in audio and knows exactly how to use spatial audio. Now, that for me, that's one of the big things that this project needs to address is how do we go from not only enabling the technology to be streamed and for it to be there, but also for people to be able to use it and create the content in it. So so that's quite important, and that leads me on to my kind of the end of my overview, where I kind of state that that I'm going to be exploring new and novel ways to recreate high-resolution spatial audio VR scenes in a streaming context, and how to implement them using the current tech. But I'll also look to speculate heavily using evidence how we're going to move forward in the near future. Now, that's important in as much as speaking to a lot of the technology developers like Fraunhofer, the tools aren't currently available even for testing purposes. Even if the VR Industry Forum are saying this is how we're going to do it, the tools aren't currently there to actually do it. So while I would like to say, hey, we're going to do this and lay down a workflow and implement it, it's actually not possible. So in order to achieve what I need to achieve, I'm going to implement what we can do at the moment and also define how it's going to be done in the near future. That's where I'm at the moment. Hopefully I'll check back in soon. I'm feeling quite confident and inspired almost about this now. So let's see what happens.